We have a lot of information to cover, and there are some things I desperately want to share with you. So I'm excited to spend some time with you now, and our goal this morning is to unravel some of the mystery that yet still remains with our new MetaPWR product line. Are you excited about MetaPWR? You know, it's hard not to think to ourselves that this is something brand new for doTERRA, but in reality, it's not something that's brand new for doTERRA. It's something that we've been working on now for many, many, many years. And in fact, if we put in perspective what happens in doTERRA, we're going to see what I call a biochemical discovery. And that is that when we first started in doTERRA, one of the biggest challenges and one of the biggest obstacles that we had, believe it or not, was even to just define what an essential oil was. There were lots of definitions that made no sense whatsoever. I remember reading an article that was published by a PhD chemist who said essential oils are plant extracts, and they contain vitamins and minerals and many other things, including aromatic compounds. Essential oils are aromatic compounds. They're powerful. They're life-changing. As we've walked through this journey now for what has been our entire time in doTERRA, I want to make something really clear in this observation of this discovery. You see several points along this timeline. Each one of them holds significance for us in our increased understanding, in the increased knowledge we have about how and why what we're doing in doTERRA is powerful and it is unique. We started first with just trying to look at the chemistry of what an essential oil was, microanalytics, microanalysis. And then we progressed into, of course, CPTG and co-impact sourcing, and we went the rest of the way on our journey to even yesterday, you got to hear about human clinical trials that we now do in doTERRA and have done for a long period of time. There is nobody else who does those things. And in fact, if we were to overlay other companies onto the same, let me give a qualifier here. It's going to sound like for a moment that I'm being derogatory to other companies. It's only because I am. Not in an unkind way completely, just partially. If we look at this timeline, here's why it has relevance to our own understanding. And that includes you and me, all of us together. That very first point, microanalysis, do you realize that this is the sum total of all of the science and all of the progression that every other company has ever made in regards to essential oils? We are the only company who has progressed far beyond that. And all of our moniker of what and who we are as a company resides not just with that first point, but with every point on that entire timeline. Here's why those things hold some significance for us. One of the primary reasons why, and this is again from a competitor, and I'm not going to say who because it doesn't really matter. I'm really not trying to be derogatory, but this is a deep concern. The chemistry of an oil has nothing to do, or the value of an oil has nothing, the chemistry of an oil has nothing to do with quality. Instead, quality is solely determined through aroma profiles and cost. The more expensive an oil, the better quality. So I have great news for you. Today we're raising all of our prices by 4 times. And Corey, just so you know, I just more than tripled our impact. So there you go. We're all set. This does not make any sense. Now, yesterday, I talked with you just briefly about the pillars of quality that we have in doTERRA. I know yesterday, those of you who were privileged to attend some of our breakout sessions and the Terra Talks, you heard Dr. Osgoodthorpe also talk a little bit briefly about some of our pillars of quality. These aren't just things that we decided would look good on paper or that we thought to ourselves would have some type of a meaning for us, but instead these are the things that stand as clear guideposts for us in every single thing that we do. Now we can divide these into two categories which make perfect sense. One is going to be about chemistry, and the other is going to be about the healthy outcomes that we all seek and that we enjoy in what we do within doTERRA. And the reason why these become so critical for us, and I know that you had brief exposure to this yesterday as well, is that adultery is rampant in the essential oil community at large. It's too easy to take what nature gave us and to make it something different. It's too easy to take even the most delicate of that chemistry and make it devoid from the process and say that it has no value and that it has no place. And so we had no choice when we look at things, for example, birch, which there are no samples of birch. There is no birch that any longer is not synthetic in one way or another. It's not easy for doTERRA to undertake now bringing birch back to life so that we'll have it in the future. It wasn't easy to learn how to cultivate Roman chamomile. As you recall, we didn't have Roman chamomile for a long period of time because there was no quality that we could source or find anywhere. It's not easy to do what doTERRA does, but it is 100% necessary. And you and I and those that we care for are the recipients of that good and great work that is done. So I'm going to take just a moment now, and I'm going to commit my partners to the same thing I'm now committing myself to, which is not new to you because you've heard each one of them say this in their own way. We are 100% committed to who we are as a company. doTERRA is not something that we do. It's something that we live and breathe. It's become a part of who we are. It's in our chemistry, it's in our DNA. And I suspect it's the exact same way for you. And you have our full, unwavering commitment that that is who we have always been and who we will forevermore be in everything that we undertake within doTERRA. Now, sometimes, every once in a while, I hear some criticism about the term CPTG. That doesn't really mean anything, that has no merit and that has no value. The real value of CPTG is twofold. First, we wanted to hold ourselves to a higher standard, a standard that actually didn't exist anywhere. Just like we had to do something different with the essential oils, we had to do something different with how we would gauge our progress and our success in holding ourselves accountable to that standard. The other reason why CPTG is so important, because when we talk about purity, we're also leading to the very end run of those 4 pillars that we talked about. We're also then going to talk about efficacy and the value that efficacy brings to each and every single one of us, and why it's so critical. And that one word that maybe you won't completely and fully understand is something called chirality. Chirality is the position in space that an essential oil has. It's what allows an essential oil to communicate effectively through the known biochemical pathways and receptors that exist within our bodies. Chirality is not just the formula of a particular component or compound. There's a written formula, but there's also a spatial formula, and its orientation becomes really important. I heard somebody say on the first day of convention that purity is of the utmost importance. They are and were and still are 100% correct. And that is because we cannot recreate chirality when we do something synthetically. We care about CPTG because when we isolate chemistry or we remove chemistry, even in the smallest amount, it affects the overall construct of what the essential oil is biochemically, organically, and how it will react and respond. So CPTG is of the utmost importance in that conversation, and it leads us into another quick point. And I want to lay this as a foundation for you so that you have confidence as we continue to move forward. When the consistency of an essential oil, when it's not present, then there's inconsistency in the value that we receive. They have to go hand in hand. This is a really interesting study. This was in a scientific presentation, actually, that Dr. Osgood Thorpe gave not too long ago. And in that representation to them, he shared this study. And this is a study on the effect of aromatherapy. This was a randomized human clinical trial. And look at the outcome. All those exposed to bergamot, essential oil, they showed a greater reduction in feelings of anxiousness than those in the control group, those who didn't receive. Is that a positive outcome? It's a wonderful outcome, right? Or do we get excited about that? Of course we do. But here's another study that's, interestingly enough, the exact same thing. Inhalation of aromatherapy, a controlled double-blind randomized trial. And aromatherapy as administered with bergamot in this study is not beneficial. Why is that? Why is that? And I know that you find yourself in the exact same position that I and my partners do, that people become unduly critical of where we are with our essential oils because of things like this. This is an issue of consistency. This is an issue of when somebody says the quality of an essential oil has nothing to do with chemistry. The quality of an essential oil has everything to do with chemistry. One of the things that we are extremely proud of in doTERRA is that we have consistency with our essential oils. Now let me put this in perspective for you. So we know that we're interested with the entire component and structure of the essential oil, all of its chemistry together. We have a small variation that exists from one lot to another to another. And there's lots of reasons why that can happen, including just the chemical composition that evolves in the different parts of the world. And you've seen now in all the exposure that we've given to you that we source oils literally from all over the world. We are going to have some variation. But remember, we are consumed with consistency, not just purity. Meaning that if we find something and we've done all of this good work that we have, did you like Dr. Stevens' information yesterday? Talking about the benefits that are coming from MetaPWR. If that's the case, then we don't want those occasionally, we want those all of the time. And so when we look at important chemistry, like in this case with linalool and linalool acetate, we have very little variation from one batch to another. This is representative of, we went all the way back to when we first started doTERRA, to where we are right now, and our variation in those two very important compounds is 1.07 and 1.81. Great, right? Now let me ask the real question. How many of you know what that means? Some of you do, but let me put it in perspective for you. We have organized these standards that we draw upon and that we hold ourselves accountable to because the only known standards outside of that allow for as much as a 50% variability, not 1.07. And so there is no consistency. And so when we see a study that says, bergamot was great for this, and bergamot didn't work for this. And it's the exact same study. Can I ask you, please, don't let it bother you. Who cares? I've been waiting for 3 days to say this. They don't know what we know because they don't do what we do. Now, this is the whole sum and parcel of why we have co-impact sourcing. I know we think of co-impact sourcing in this wonderful world, and we all have the same feelings and emotions and ties that root and ground us in doTERRA because of our influence with people around the world. But co-impact sourcing is also about chemistry. It's also about, remember Dr. Stevens' look yesterday? This is my excited look. We get excited about chemistry because we know we can impact chemistry. And so we live in a time and we live in a place right now where maybe you feel challenged. Please don't. Let your confidence reside with us for a while if that's what's needed. Know that we are surrounded by brilliant people. You are erroneous if you think I stand on stage alone. You are erroneous if you think Emily stands on stage alone. You are erroneous if you think Corey or any of the others that you have seen stand on stage alone. So let's move forward, can we? Let's not get mired down in the equation of somebody saying, and I had this experience not too long ago, somebody shared with me a post of a new company that just started. And in that post they said, we took our oils to a doctor who is an owner of doTERRA. I only know one doctor that's an owner of doTERRA. And he analyzed our oils, and he was so amazed and said, these oils are just like ours and even better. I cry foul. Nothing could be further from the truth. I don't know that person, and they don't know me. And I wouldn't analyze the oil anyway. I would take it to our team of experts who would say, are you out of your mind? What is this? This is not an oil. Let's no longer find ourselves in the discussion of trying to compete with individuals who say, we do that too. Here's my GC, where's yours? Just like doTERRA. Instead, let's be flattered. Let's invite them into the equation of doTERRA with great confidence and exuberance in knowing that they will experience for the first time what an essential oil really should be. Now, I want to shift gears for just a minute because we do want to talk about MetaPWR, and I want to drive some things together for you that will help it to make a little more sense and put it into a context of usability. And to start that conversation, I want to talk with you about something known as epigenetics. Now, this was a really interesting article that was, I had you at epigenetics, didn't I? If only I'd known that from the very beginning, that would have been perfect. This was a really interesting article that was actually published several years ago in Time magazine. What we're all consumed with right now is that we want to close this gap. We want to close the gap in our own health and in our own span for life. And one of the ways that we can do that is to be consumed with epigenetics. And so what is epigenetics? Genes, this is an important thing, genes influence specific health challenges. And at the same time, our lifestyle influences whether or not those challenges will manifest themselves. Epigenetics do not change the context of your DNA. Instead, it changes how your body reads the DNA. It changes how your body is able to react and respond. This is why lifestyle is so important, and the whole of that, to make this really simple, you already have an epigenetic graph and roadmap. It is called the wellness pyramid. It is lifestyle. These are all the things and all of the elements in lifestyle, and this is your daily approach. Last night, as my wife and I were out enjoying and intermingling with many individuals through the parties that we went to, and then throughout my conversations that I've had with many of you through convention, this is the one element that we seem to be missing. It's not just about what we do with MetaPWR. It has to be how they all congeal and all come together. Now, last year at convention, we changed one of the categories, and we changed it to movement and metabolism. We're changing another one today, and it's going to be reduce exposure and support detoxification. You're going to see changes from time to time for two main reasons. One, sometimes it's a clue to things that might be coming in the future. Secondly, it's an opportunity for you to have an understanding that our products that we speak to you about with regularity fit neatly into this program. Not because of a marketing strategy, but because of the idea that what you do in your lifestyle also projects to what your health outcomes will be. And it's not something I like yesterday when Nicole said, it's not magic, it's chemistry. Everything that happens in your body is chemistry. Your lifestyle influences chemistry. And it influences at the deepest level that we have within the whole of our body, and that framework, which is within the DNA of our very cells itself. And so use this as a marker for you to be able to progress and move forward. You've heard about the value of lifelong vitality. Now, I want to pause here for just a minute and share a couple of other things for you. It's not just about lifelong vitality. There's other things that will help you in this journey for metabolic health as well. For example, our protein shakes or our green shakes. Those are great meal replacements, and they'll help to reduce your caloric load as well as your glycemic load. Getting rid of some of those things that we normally would eat and doing it in a healthy way. Fiber also changes the way that your body manages glucose, and it absorbs more slowly. It's not just only lifelong vitality, but we have tied lifelong vitality to this concept of metabolism for one clear reason. This is micronutrients, and your body has to have appropriate micronutrient density. And taking everything else out for three reasons. Here's the three things you need to know about why lifelong vitality. First, the Microplex VMZ. It's about enzymatic activity. We can spend a lot of time now talking about why also you need Terrazyme, and we can link it to all of these other things. But know that without vitamins and minerals, you're going to be inhibited in the enzymatic activity that you need. And in every single function of what we have for metabolism, it is chemical reaction and response. And that is driven by metabolic enzyme activity. So you need Microplex VMZ. When we talk about the alpha CRS, I know we've always talked about energy, and it does factor into that because it supplies the additional nutrients that your cell needs to proper functionally through those cycles of energy production and other things that happen within the cell. And then lastly, it really is about structure. Lifelong vitality is about structure and function within the cells. And structure because we need membrane fluidity. The outside surface of your cell, that cell membrane, is comprised primarily of fatty acids. And those are critically important because if we don't have them present, then we have plasticity which begins to develop through the cell structure. And that means that my cell not only is limited in its function, but it cannot communicate. Now, I have a challenge for you. Statistically, we know how many of you are using lifelong vitality. And so I will not ask for a raise of hands. But can I please ask you, if you want to receive the maximum benefit from MetaPWR, to please start using Lifelong Vitality regularly.